Imagine working in the same industry for over a decade. What little tips, tricks, and hacks would you pick up over those 10 years that would have made you faster and more efficient had you known them when you first started? Back in 2011, I left my carpentry job where I was swinging a hammer every day and stepped into the world of cyber and Linux. And today I'm going to show you 9 favorite bash tricks that I've picked up over the years that are still so helpful. I use them every day. So let's start with some easy, more well-known ones. Alright, we're going to start with the pipe command. The pipe command simply takes the results of the first command and feeds those results to the second command for processing. So what I normally use it for is something like this, looking for a listening port. So we'll go socket statistics, T for TCP, L for listening ports, P for owning process, and N because we do not want to translate IP addresses to host names. And then if we just hit enter here without the pipe command, it'll give us a full screen of output. But if we want to run it through the pipe command, if we go like this, sstlpn pipe command, and then grep for port 22, we'll just get the results for port 22 listed instead of a full screen of text, which is pretty nice. So that's what I use the pipe command for often. Keep in mind that these are not exotic, complicated commands. I want to show you commands that are actually useful. I'm going to show you ones that I use all the time. Next, let's go over to our Kali box, and let me show you the greater than symbol. Now what the greater than symbol does is it writes the output of a command to a file so you can view it later. So that way you can go back and reference it. So what I often will use it for is nmap or any network traffic output that I might want to view later. So in this case, I'll go ping 192.168.229.141. We'll ping our Ubuntu target box. And then we'll do the greater than symbol. And let's pipe it, or let's direct the output to a file called nmap results. This file title will make sense in a second here. So we'll go ahead and hit enter. Now in Linux, the ping command keeps running and running and running. So we're going to have to manually stop it here. So I'm going to hit Control C. Now, if we view the nmap results file, what do we get? All right, look at that. There's our ping. Now I'll hit Shift ZQ to get out of that. Let's clear our screen. Okay, what's the next one? Well, we just did the greater than symbol. Let's do two greater thans. And what that does is that appends the output of a command to a file, meaning it adds the output of the command to a file. So in this case, we're going to actually use nmap. We're going to go nmap -n, which again is do not try to translate IP addresses to host names. And then we'll do -p for port 22. And then let's hit the Ubuntu target box. And then we'll do the double greater than because we want to append the results to this file or add these results to the end of the file. Nmap results. We'll hit enter. And look at that, it already finished. Now, if we view the nmap results file again, what do we see? Well, there's our ping command, and look at that. Now here is the result of our nmap command. Pretty cool, huh? So that's what I'll often use the greater than and double greater than symbols for, is for writing the results of network traffic analysis commands to a file so I can view them whenever I want to reference them later. Okay, these were the easy ones. Now let's kick the complexity up a notch, but not too much. I still want these to be useful and easy to remember. So now I'm going to show you the double ampersand. And what that does is when you run two commands, you can run the second command only if the first succeeds. So here's what I normally use this for. So I'll go vi tilde, which stands for home for the current user. And then I'll do bash, if I can spell it right, bash rc. And if you don't know, the bash rc file is where you configure your bash preference settings. And then I'll do the double tilde, and I'll type source tilde or excuse me, that's the double ampersand, not the double tilde. So I'll go source tilde bash rc again. And what this does is it'll run this command, and after it's done running that command, if the command completes successfully, it'll run this command too. And then I'll hit enter. I'll go to the bottom and I'll put in some sort of an alias. Let's go alias c equals the command clear. And then I'll hit escape, hold down shift ZZ to save and exit. So what just happened? Well, we ran this command. So I opened the text file and then I edited it. I saved it. After I saved it, it immediately ran this command, source bash rc. And what that does is that reloads the bash rc file. So whatever configuration changes I made after I typed this command, any configuration changes I made inside the bash rc file will immediately be put into place because the source bash rc command reloads the bash rc file in memory. So now I can type the letter C. Instead of typing out clear, I can just type the letter C and it will work. Anyone who uses Linux for any length of time has learned to love the history file and commands. If you don't know, the history file saves all of your previous commands and allows you to recall them and rerun them at any time. Here are my favorite commands to use with the history file. I'll show you what the history file is here. See how it has all of our old commands right here? So what I want to show you is double exclamation point there at the bottom. Now, what does double exclamation point do? Well, it simply reruns the last command in the history file. So in this case, it would be history, which is a bad example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type vi nmap results, and then I'll hit shift ZQ to quit without saving. And now when I type history, nmap results will be closer to the bottom. So what I'll do is I'll run it again. We'll get it right at the bottom. And then if I want to run the same command again, I don't have to type out vi nmap results. All I have to do, since the vi nmap result is at the bottom of the history file, is I'll just type double exclamation point like that and hit enter, and you see how it just runs that last command. So shift ZQ to get out of vi. So I cleared our screen here again. What do I use this for? Well, the double exclamation point I will often use with the sudo command. If I run a command that requires sudo, but I forget to put sudo in front of it, I'll just go sudo exclamation point, and rerun it. Let's see something like this. If I just hit switch user to root, it'll say, hey, what's your password? I'll put in the password. It says, what the heck are you doing? But if I go sudo double exclamation point, it reruns this last command. And I've typed in the Vero password recently, so it didn't prompt me again for the password. It just went straight to it. But this is how I use the double exclamation point normally. Yes, it will run a command without using sudo, but again, this is the normal use case for the double exclamation point, at least in my world. Now let's get out of this and let me show you the next one, which is the exclamation point followed by the command number. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if we type history, do you see how every command has a number next to it? Well, let's say we want to run vi nmap results again. See how it says 2059? Let me go exclamation point 2059 and hit enter. And there it goes. It runs that command again. We'll hit shift ZQ to get out of this. So that's what I normally use the single exclamation point for, is I'll bring up the history file and then I'll look and see, okay, which command here do I want to run? And then I'll look at the number next to the command I want to run, and then I'll hit exclamation point 20, what was that, 2066. And it'll just rerun that command again for me. Pretty cool. It's pretty awesome when you just ran a command a few minutes back and you don't want to have to type out the whole command again. You can just reference the history file and pull it up and rerun it from there. So it's pretty awesome. Next, I'll show you how to copy and paste a historical command to the bottom of the history file. And the reason you would do this is if you had a long command that you wanted to rerun, but you wanted to edit it, maybe put some different parameters, maybe ping a different IP address, and things of that nature, you would use this. So we'll go history. Let's say I want to rerun line 2074 VI nmap results, but let's say there's a file I have called nmap results 2. There isn't one, but let's pretend that there is. So instead of typing out VI nmap results, etc., I'll just go exclamation point 2074, and then I'll go colon P. And see how it pastes this right here? So it is now pasted that to the bottom of the history file. So I'll just hit the up arrow one time, and it'll bring up that command again, and then I'll add what I want to at the end of the command, tweak it like I want to, and hit enter. And there isn't an nmap results 2 file, so that's why you see nothing on the screen. But it did run the command. So I'll hit Shift ZQ because we want to quit but not save. So that's how I do that. And again, what do I use this for? Well, normally if I have a long command that I need to tweak and rerun, but it's further up the chain of historical commands, I'll use this colon P to paste the command to the bottom of the history file, and then I'll just hit the up arrow. So it's pretty sweet, especially when you're dealing with really long commands. The final 2 commands are the most powerful and flexible. I am referring to the alias command and the export command. One creates a shortcut for long commands, and one creates a variable you can reference at any time, saving you from having to type out the entire value anytime you want to use it. Let me show you how I've been using them lately. So first we'll go with the alias command, and you saw this earlier. Bash rc && source bash rc. We'll hit enter, hit Shift G to go to the bottom. Now we did this alias earlier, so you saw how that worked. Let's do a more complicated one to really demonstrate how powerful this can be. So we'll go alias. Let's do SSH host C, and then we'll hit enter, and then we'll go SSH using the user vero at 192.168.229.141, single quote. Then I'll hit escape to get out of insert mode, hold down Shift ZZ to save and exit. Now I'll just type SSH host C, and there it asks me for the passphrase, and we're into host C. So now I don't have to type SSH vero at IP address every time. I can just type SSH host C. So it's a lot faster and easier. So that's the power of alias. So let's get out of that. Now we'll go over the export command, which is another favorite of mine. And what this does is it just shares a variable with subprocesses. I'm not going to share what a variable is and subprocesses are in this video because we'll go down a long rabbit hole if I do that. So instead, I'll just show you the power of the export command. Let's say that I will have to type an IP address repeatedly for different commands. Think of like when you're doing hack the box or something. Let's say I don't want to do that. Let's just say I want to type a variable like IP. So what I'll do is I'll set up that variable using the export command. So I'll go vi bash && source bash rc, and you guys can see how powerful that & can be because I keep using it even in this video. So we'll do that. Shift G, go to the bottom. Now you can see I have an export command already here at line 170. Let's create another one. So I'll hit O to go down to the next line and enter insert mode. And then I will type export IP equals single quote 192.168.229.141, single quote, hit escape to get out of insert mode, hold down Shift ZZ to save and exit. Now instead of typing ping 192.168.229.141 every time, all I have to do is type ping $IP, and it'll do the same thing. So it's a nice little shortcut so you don't have to type out a bunch of variables. So there you have it. That's 15 years condensed into minutes. These aren't flashy tricks. These are the ones that actually make you faster. The difference between somebody who knows Linux and somebody who's efficient in Linux is usually stuff like this. If you know of some additional Linux hacks that you'd like to see added to this list, drop them in the comments. My only requirement is that they be useful and you tell us the situation that you use them in. That way we can all benefit. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.